Hi there. It's kind of been a while, hasn't it? I'm sorry it's been so long since I've posted an update for Phantasy Star Online. It's just, with the job hunting and the moving and the everything else I've been doing over the past while, I kind of needed a bit of time just to do those and focus on those rather than something as time-consuming as this. I did end up finding some work though, so I'll be good to go there for a while. And yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on with me. I'm still looking for better work, but not nearly as tirelessly as before. This is Forest 2 though. It's like Forest 1, except darker! Ooh, scary. Yeah, there's not too much different about it other than stronger enemies will start appearing. This here, though, is a switch. It's like the laser fence switches, except it'll trigger things like bridges or opening doors instead of just turning off a laser fence. Speaking of stronger enemy types, hi there, Giga Buma. It's just like the other two Boomas, except it has higher stats. That's about it. It's also weak to Barda spells for those of you playing force-based characters. But yeah, that's them. It dropped a Soul Atomizer. Soul Atomizers in this game are basically your panacea, or however the crap that's pronounced. It will get rid of any status effects that you have on you at the time, so they're good to have around, as there are some status effects that only it can remove. Now, another thing I should actually probably comment on is that Forests 1 and 2, something that's kind of special about them is the fact that their overall shape never changes. The only thing that will change is the order in which you go through the doors. So, Forest 2 will always have this same overall structure to it. The boss teleports is always in the same place, the entrance is always in the same place. The later stages are just pretty much fully, I'd say generated, but actually there's only a set number of layouts that each stage has. I'm sure by now you've noticed the numbers 1 through 9 and 0 at the bottom of the screen there. Those are actually for a feature specific to the Blue Burst version of the game. You know how we customized our action palette? Well, you can customize those numbers too. It's really great because before you'd have all those spells on non-droid characters and you just would not have enough space on the action palette in order to actually have them ready to go. So these extra spaces allow you to assign them to the number keys on your keyboard and thus be able to activate them whenever you want. So you can just set it up to be organized however you please. I kind of try to keep things in an orderly fashion here with the droids. Nice thing about the droids being they only have the 10 buttons that you have down there. They only have 10 things you can really set there unless you want to set your attacks there for some reason. Okay, past me. Hurry on up. We don't have to sit here watching you try to sort this out forever, you know. That fourth type of trap, by the way, is something that's not available in the regular game. It's only available in the battle mode. And it's, you wouldn't want it anyways. But on the other hand, here's Moon Atomizer. Carry 10 of these, always. At least when you're playing multiplayer. Death is very frequent in this game, especially in the higher difficulties. The Moon Atomizer will revive one of your fallen allies with about half their HP left, so you're gonna need to use a lot of them. As we slog through another room, I might as well talk about something I actually talked about in my recent updates video, but you haven't watched that. Since I know Phantasy Star Online is going to be a very big and long project for me, I don't really want to make it the only project on my channel. So I'm probably going to do a text-based game on the side, and by text-based I mean I'd be using subtitles for the commentary. And it'll just be a little smaller game as a side project, just for something to enjoy. I actually have one in mind already. It'll just be a matter of sitting down and taking the time to record it. Should be fun though. This game I somewhat like. Yeah, not too big on it, but it's a fun game. And I know there's a lot of fans of it out there, so it'll pretty much be a return to my attempting things no damage, because honestly I like the challenge. Due to the fact that this means my videos won't be all in very perfect order anymore, like I have been up until now, I finally went and updated all my playlists, so there's one for each game that I've done so far. That way you'll be able to find the videos for them much easier without having to root through a bunch of mixed projects. I see a lot of other channels do this, and I agree. It's the way to go, really. Because by doing multiple projects, I'll also keep longer ones feeling more fresh as I'm doing something else in between. And as a result, I have more fun with it and still have the energy all the way through. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's learn about rag graphies. Oh, these, well, I suppose they're cute little yellow chicken devil buddies. The thing about them is, if you run too far away from them like this, they're gonna try and escape because they're just playing dead. And if you hit them when they're trying to escape, they'll always drop something. This works for regular Rappies in episodes 1 and 2. There's another type of Rappy in episode 4, though, that's not guaranteed to drop something. Pretty likely. Also, if you just stand around and wait long enough, they'll get up on their own too. So if you're trying to be very careful, it's probably better to just wait for them rather than to try and lure them into running away yourself. This game, it has such a pull on me. I mean, it's been a while since I played it just because I've been busy with my job hunt and everything. And I'm already feeling the urge to pick it back up again just by watching my old footage here. So that's how it's been with me ever since I got it, really. I mean, I enjoyed it for a while at first, yeah, and then I put it down for a little while, and then I got the temptation to play some more, and it's just been on and off like that, just ever since I originally started playing the game. And anybody who's played this game a lot definitely knows the feeling, as it just seems to be something that any fan of the game seems to feel a lot. Also, here's the star atomizer. It's technically the best healing item in the game, as it's a full heal that has an AoE effect around you. The range is very small, though. Also, I got a saber +2. The +2 means that it has been grinded. Grinding is essentially just improving the attack power of a weapon. The +2 means it's been grinded twice. Now, I picked up this mono grinder. This is one of the grinders that I'm talking about. There's also die grinders and tri grinders, so they grind the weapon 1, 2, and 3 times respectively. Every time you grind a weapon, it gets +2 ATP. That's all it does. So, if you max, the one thing is to note, every weapon has its own maximum grind that you can get to. So, if you get a weapon that you really want to be keeping, try to grind it up to its maximum. It varies by every weapon. Some weapons you can't even grind at all, so just try it out. You know, make sure it's filled out, because you'll get the most attack power from it. That said, however, collecting grinders and putting them into your bank was a pain in the arse on different versions of the game, and even on regular Blue Burst. Because the items, despite just being greens, they didn't stack. Every single mono grinder, die grinder, and tri grinder you got would take up its own bank slot, and you only get 200 of those, so if you collected too many of them, your bank would be completely filled by them, and you'd have yourself a problem. However, on the particular server I play on for Blue Burst, they've actually made a slight addition to the game that allows you to actually stack the grinders up to a total of 99, I do believe. Also, I should note, there will be times like this when you go back to a room that you had previously cleared, and there'll be more enemies in there. These are usually generated from events that you did in different rooms, and are usually only when the map layout is designed to make you backtrack at some point. Doesn't happen very often, it's mostly just in very particular stages at very particular spots. And really, it's more enemies, so it's not such a big deal. I mean, you need the experience after all, because this game requires a lot of it if you actually want to max out your level like a crazy person, even though it's definitely not necessary. Now, one thing I should definitely talk about. There is different types of restrictions on equipment that you can use, such as the 2 weapons that I just found laying around here, the dagger and the cane. As you can see with the dagger, I actually need more base attack power in order to equip it, whereas the cane had a red X beside it. The red X means that your class type entirely cannot equip this. One reason for this one being, the cane is a magic-based weapon, so you need the MST slot in order to equip it, but for droids, MST is always 0 as they do not have TP and they cannot use spells. This game can sometimes be really weird about how it restricts weapons and armor and so forth. Like, there's quite a few that are restricted by gender, which is a bit silly as is. And there's others still that only works for, like, Rangers and Forces or Hunters and Rangers. Just a combination of 2 different classes. but not working for the third one for whatever reason. You know, that sort of thing. There's not a whole lot left of the forest too overall. Forest is extremely short, and honestly I'm going to be kind of happy when I'm done with it, as the forest is easily the place that I've played the absolute most in this game over the years. Just because of all the new characters I start, this was always the most ideal starting point. There was tons of different things that were good to get from the forest. It was just always the go-to thing, and honestly, I kind of got tired of it. But, you know, yeah, I grew more attached to the other episodes because I didn't play them as often, as they weren't quite as rewarding in terms of character EXP and drops, but I find them quite fun when I get a chance to play them. Episode 2 was particularly infamous as it had almost nothing to offer, but it's still fun to play. Bear! Okay, so this here Hilda-Bear, it's a big guy, and as you would expect, it hurts a lot. It'll punch the crap out of you if it gets too close. Also, it has the secondary effect, attack of it, which is just to spit a fireball at you. It's a very low level foe, so it's very slow moving and not all that damaging, but it still has something to do when it's further away. Although if you get too far away, instead of just using its time to spit a fireball at you, it will jump on your head. And boy, can these things jump, so be careful. The ones on normal aren't so bad, but the later difficulties, that jump is pretty much undodgeable, and they get something much worse than Foy to start spitting at you. Ah, yes, the pillars. These actually don't serve any purpose in Blue Burst, but in the GameCube version of the game, you had to find the pillars, like these ones. There's one in each of the first 3 stages of Episode 1, and if you didn't push them all, you wouldn't be able to unlock the 4th area, even if you went through all 3 of the areas and beat all the bosses. So they were important to find. But now they're just kind of left over there because I didn't feel like taking them out, I guess. As progression in Blue Burst, you know, on its regular version, required you to play through a series of quests instead, which made it a heck of a lot slower, honestly. Yes, Monas, yes, I hear you. I hear you. I swear the only reason why these enemy types are just so infamous is the fact that they're designed to do nothing more than waste your time. And there's a lot of gamers out there who get upset when things just try to waste their time. All the Monas does is it takes a while to come down. It spits out all these little enemies that you need to deal with in order to actually be considered as having cleared the enemy wave. And when you knock it over, it starts spitting them out more rapidly, so you need to try and take out the nest immediately. It can actually run out of enemies to spit at you, but if you're sitting there trying to get rid of every single one, you might be crazy, as they're only worth 1 experience point. It's just one. One out of many millions. Oh. And my accuracy is completely terrible. Now, this is the hunter with the best accuracies. That's saying something when she's having this much difficulty hitting things. Missing is kind of brutal in this game, as you're usually trying to kite the enemy with knockback. So if you miss, especially if you're using a melee weapon, you're gonna get smacked around for quite a lot of damage. Now, you may be curious how I'm swapping weapons so quickly. There's actually a neat little quick menu, as you're seeing here, which allows you to swap through your weapons just on demand, pretty much, without having to go all the way through the equipment menu. When you hold the alternate palette button, you can see that the top there has kind of switched to a swapping symbol. So basically, you hold down the alternate palette button and press the button that corresponds to your top palette button, and it brings up this menu, where you can select which weapon you want to use. Definitely very handy, and lets you make use of multiple weapon types, so you can pick which one is best for this current situation. Now, the quick switch menu also has more purposes for it. If you bring it up here, and at this point you can actually tab to more menus, which allows you to pick from items to use, as well as traps to use. And when you're an android, this will have all your spells, so you have another way of accessing those spells that you don't currently have bound to any buttons. It's extremely handy, especially during situations where you need to really use one of those things that you don't have much access to. And it saves you from rooting through the pause menu. Because although you can still move around while you're in the pause menu, it's just a case of sometimes you need something a little faster and something that doesn't block as much of your screen. Now, the kind of nice thing about Hildebears is you can actually stun lock them with a handgun like this. That said, use a gun. If you try to do it at melee range, they don't care anymore and they'll just punch you in the face. They can only suffer hit stun when they're not presently trying to attack, or at least not trying to melee attack. And you probably don't want to rely on heavy attacks for it because you need to make sure they stay locked, otherwise they're going to cover some pretty significant distance. Also, on normal mode, they tend to drop Trimates, which is like all the other maid items, except it gives you a full heal. But you don't generally want to use Trimates this early in the game, as you simply can just heal them pretty much full with monomates. Also, you have very limited inventory slots, so you can just go to the item menu and drop one if you want to pick up something else, such as the Trimate there. Now this big old teleport will be seen at the end of every stage. This is the boss teleport. You go there to fight the boss. Pretty self-explanatory. But let's use a telepipe first instead. They look like this, and they'll take you straight back to Pioneer 2. Because my inventory is really full, so I should probably go to the shop and get rid of all the junk that I don't need anymore. As this early in the game, you do actually kind of have to pinch every penny for money. Later on, though, you won't have to worry about any of that. Ah, this particular frame has a slot in it. Now, what slots do in armor is, they're going to add another little slot to the equipment screen here, and with that you can equip slot items, such as the Night Power that we found earlier. What the Night Power is doing is it's increasing my attack power by 5, but here's the big thing about slot items. They increase your base stat. So things that need your base stat to equip, such as the dagger we found earlier, will actually use that in their calculations, as opposed to just how much ATP you currently have. Since slots increase your base stat, as I mentioned, they are one of the key things to min-maxing your character, which is a very long speech I'll go on about at a different time in one of the educational videos, because seriously now, I'd be talking for a while here if I tried to explain all the different things that go into that. And some people honestly don't care about min-maxing their characters, so we'll see what happens with that one. Now, as you saw, my item list here is a complete mess. Thankfully, the game has a very easy way of sorting. Just click on any item, and you can go to sort, and I normally choose automatic, as it gives a nice layout. It sorts it by weapon, then your armor, then your slots, then your mag, then your items. It puts all the extra stuff at the bottom. And I definitely prefer this overall, as it's just a very simple layout. You can reorganize manually if you really want to, but it's a lot slower. Now that we've sold off excess items and stored others that we don't need in the bank, let's go back. This will take you straight back to where you used your telepipe, but it will also close it behind you, so keep that in mind. Now, it will only close it behind you if it's your own teleport. But let's go to the boss. And don't you know it, because every fantasy game that ever existed needs to have a dragon of some form. And it's your basic fire dragon. And it's very, very easy. The dragon is the only boss in the game where not taking a single hit is actually quite likely. Not so much early in the game due to one particular attack, but I'll talk about that when it shows up. On normal difficulty, the dragon moves extremely slowly. So, not getting stepped on is fairly easy unless you try to go up and melee him in the foot, because if you so much as get stepped on, you go down. In its first phase, when you knock it down like this, you can get some free shots at its head, which is its weak point. Also demonstrating the dagger, which is a single-hitting weapon with 6 attacks. It has almost no range and an awkward animation though, so it's not the most useful type. However, it's a lot better than our saber at this time. Once the dragon gets up, the fight continues. However, I ended up doing a lot of damage to him, so when you see that roaring animation, it means it's entered its second phase. What this means is, it's going to start doing this particular attack, where it flies up, and after a short period, it goes burrowing into the ground. Now, there's a very easy way to dodge this. If you bring up your area map and zoom it out, you can actually see where the dragon is while it's underground. The way in which to dodge this is to just try not to be directly across from it, as that's where it'll try to go. It doesn't turn very well, so if you're, as long as you're not like straight across from it, you'll probably be able to avoid getting hit by it. Now you can just run around in circles in the room and try and avoid it that way if you don't feel like bringing up the area map, but this is not 100% foolproof and will get you hit every now and then. But it's fair enough that it probably won't matter unless the move is an insta-kill, as it is very painful. Right now, though, I think I have enough HP to survive it, especially since this is offline difficulty as opposed to online difficulty. But yeah, the dragon has a few spots that take more damage than others. Its feet are its second most vulnerable spot, and its face is the most vulnerable. The rest of its body takes around the same amount of damage. But yeah, that's really all there is to this boss. Its only attack that's actually very tricky to dodge didn't actually turn up, as that only happens in Phase 1. So if you can force him into Phase 2 fast enough, you should be able to avoid taking a hit at all. Once you defeat the boss, you'll get a whole bunch of crates to go pick up. Unfortunately, the item dropped by the boss itself is the only thing that can drop the boss's rare drop. That's a lot of drops. Drop, 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 drop. I like saying drop. Everybody loves drops. Here's more drops, they're in the boxes. Oh, me sounding like a fool aside. You can collect these if you need some money, as usually boss drops will give you slightly better equipment than you'd see in the stage itself, and thus is worth more money. Also, I tend to empty my pockets before going to a boss, so I usually have lots of inventory space to toss them in there. There's Tri-Grinder, those are pretty uncommon, so it's nice to have one of those for something in the late future. Usually if you're gonna blow some grinders on a kind of crappy weapon, just go with the mono grinders. But yeah, that was the whole first stage. Not all that long, but the next one is a significant step up in not only length, but its most difficulty. And yes, I can walk on the lava now that the boss is over, but if I had walked on it during the boss, those lava patches would have hurt me. It's gotta be the shoes. They must be reinforced in some fashion. But yeah, once you beat the boss, you can teleport back to Pioneer 2. And that's that. I guess I'll be seeing you guys next time, as we go take on the caves. Bye-bye!